My name is Clarence Hartwell, and I'm 57 years old. I spent my entire adult life working in a machine shop, building a decent life for my family in our modest suburban home. After my wife passed when our son Marcus was 12, I raised him alone, working double shifts to pay for his college education. I thought we had the kind of bond that would last forever. But this past Christmas, I learned a painful lesson about how success can change people in ways you never expect. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. You will not believe what my son said to me that December morning. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but sometimes life teaches you lessons you never saw coming. When my wife Sarah died of cancer 13 years ago, Marcus was just starting middle school. Those were the darkest days of my life, but I knew I had to be strong for him. I took on a second job at the local hardware store, working evenings and weekends just to make sure he could have the same opportunities as other kids. Marcus was always a bright child. Even as a young boy, he had this determination that reminded me so much of his mother. While other kids were playing video games, he'd be reading business magazines he'd borrowed from the library. I remember finding him at age 14, hunched over our kitchen table with a calculator trying to figure out compound interest formulas he'd read about online. When it came time for college applications, Marcus had his heart set on the State University's business program. The tuition was steep, but I'd been saving every penny I could. I sold my fishing boat, the one thing I'd kept for myself after Sarah died. I picked up weekend shifts whenever they were available. There were months when I'd eat nothing but peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, just to stretch the budget a little further. The day Marcus got his acceptance letter, I'll never forget the look on his face. He ran into my workshop, waving that envelope like it was made of gold. We both had tears in our eyes as we read it together. That night, I called my sister in California to share the news. I was so proud I could barely get the words out. College suited Marcus perfectly. He threw himself into his studies with the same intensity he'd shown as a kid. His professors loved him. His grades were excellent, and by junior year, he was already getting internship offers from companies in the city. When he graduated, summa cum laude, I was sitting in that auditorium, feeling like the luckiest father alive. The day after graduation, Marcus told me he'd gotten a job offer from a prestigious consulting firm downtown. The salary was more than I made in 2 years. I was thrilled for him, but I could see something had changed in his eyes. There was an ambition there that felt different, hungrier somehow. That's when I made what I thought was the right decision. I used most of my retirement savings as a down payment on a beautiful townhouse in the city, about 20 minutes from his new office. It was way nicer than anything I could ever afford for myself, but I wanted Marcus to have a good start. I told him it was his graduation gift and that I'd handle the mortgage payments until he got settled in his career. I'll never forget the look of surprise and gratitude on his face when I handed him the keys. He hugged me tighter than he had since he was a little boy. And for a moment, I felt like Sarah was there with us, proud of the man our son was becoming. Those first few months, Marcus would call every Sunday evening to tell me about his work week. He'd describe the clients he was meeting, the projects he was working on, the colleagues who were becoming friends. I'd sit in my easy chair, listening to his voice, picturing him in his new life, and I felt this deep satisfaction, knowing that all those years of sacrifice had been worth it. I started imagining our future together. Maybe he'd meet a nice girl, get married, have children. I pictured myself as a grandfather, maybe helping out with babysitting, teaching my grandkids how to use tools in my workshop, the way I'd taught Marcus. Christmas was always our special time together, just the two of us, and I looked forward to expanding that tradition with his future family. Every month I'd drive down to the bank and make that mortgage payment of $2,300. It was a stretch on my income, but seeing Marcus happy and successful made every penny worth it. This was what fathers were supposed to do, I told myself. This was how you showed love. The changes started so gradually that I almost didn't notice them at first. Marcus had always been reliable about our Sunday phone calls, but sometime around his 6-month mark at the firm, those calls started becoming less frequent. First, it was every other Sunday, then maybe once a month, always with apologies about work being busy or having weekend plans he couldn't reschedule. When I did talk to him, his voice sounded different. The excitement about his job had settled into a more measured tone, and he started using phrases I didn't recognize. He'd talk about leveraging synergies and optimizing client deliverables. I knew he was learning the language of his profession, but sometimes I felt like I was talking to a stranger. Then he mentioned Stephanie. At first, it was just casual references to this girl from work or someone I've been seeing. But as weeks went by, her name started appearing more often in our conversations. She was from Connecticut, had gone to an expensive private college, and worked in marketing for a luxury brand company. The way Marcus described her, she sounded smart and accomplished, and I was happy he'd found someone special. The first time I visited after he started dating Stephanie, I could sense something was different the moment I walked into his townhouse. The furniture had been rearranged, and there were new decorations I didn't recognize. Everything looked more formal, less like the comfortable home I remembered helping him set up. Stephanie was there when I arrived, and I did my best to make a good impression. She was certainly beautiful, with perfect blonde hair and clothes that probably cost more than I made in a week. But when I shook her hand and introduced myself, her smile felt rehearsed. She looked me up and down in a way that made me suddenly aware of my work boots and flannel shirt. During dinner, I tried to ask about her family and her work, but her answers were polite and brief. She seemed more interested in talking to Marcus about people I'd never heard of and events I didn't understand. When I shared a story about Marcus as a teenager helping me rebuild an engine in the garage, she nodded politely, but I could see she wasn't really listening. As the evening went on, I noticed how Marcus seemed to be watching Stephanie's reactions to everything I said. When I mentioned my job at the machine shop, I saw him flinch slightly. When I told them about my plans to refinish the deck at home, Stephanie made a comment about how nice it must be to work with your hands, in a tone that didn't sound nice at all. The most uncomfortable moment came when I was getting ready to leave. I always hugged Marcus goodbye, but as I moved toward him, Stephanie was standing right there, and Marcus seemed hesitant. We ended up with this awkward half-hug that felt nothing like the warm embraces we'd always shared. On the drive home, I tried to shake off the feeling that something important had shifted. I told myself that Marcus was just trying to impress his new girlfriend, that this was normal when young people started serious relationships. But a nagging worry had settled in my chest, and I couldn't quite get rid of it. Over the next few visits, that worry only grew stronger. Marcus started mentioning things like networking events and charity galas that Stephanie attended. He bought new clothes and started talking about restaurants where dinner cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. When I suggested we go to our usual diner for lunch, he said they preferred more upscale places now. I began to notice that Marcus rarely talked about me when Stephanie was around. If she asked about his family, he'd give vague answers about growing up in the suburbs, without mentioning his mother's death or how hard we'd worked to get him through college. It was as if he was editing our history to fit into whatever image he thought would impress her. The phone calls became even less frequent, and when we did talk, Marcus always seemed distracted. I'd ask about his work or how things were going with Stephanie. But his answers felt surface level, like he was going through the motions of a conversation rather than really connecting with me. I started to wonder if I was losing my son to a world I didn't understand, a world where people like me didn't fit. Thanksgiving arrived with an expectation I'd held since Marcus was born. Every year, no matter what else was happening in our lives, we spent Thanksgiving together. It was our tradition, one that had carried us through Sarah's illness, Marcus's teenage years, and all the challenges of building a life as a family of two. 2 weeks before the holiday, I called Marcus to confirm our plans. I'd already bought a turkey, planned the menu, and cleaned the house from top to bottom. I was looking forward to hearing about his work meeting Stephanie properly, and maybe starting to build a real relationship with her. Actually, Dad, Marcus said, his voice careful and measured, Stephanie's family has invited me to their place in Connecticut. It's kind of a big deal to be included, you know. Her father owns a chain of hotels, and there will be some important business connections there. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, but I tried to keep my voice steady. What about our tradition, son? We've never missed a Thanksgiving. There was a pause that lasted too long. I know, Dad, but this is important for my career. Stephanie says these kinds of relationships are crucial for advancement in my field. You understand, right? I didn't understand, but I told him I did. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, looking at the list I'd made of all the dishes I was planning to cook. For the first time since Sarah died, I spent Thanksgiving alone, eating a sandwich and watching football, trying not to think about Marcus, sitting at some fancy table, pretending to be someone he wasn't. A few days later, I ran into Tom Bradley at the hardware store. Tom's daughter worked at the same consulting firm as Marcus, and he mentioned something that made my blood run cold. Funny thing, Tom said my Katie was telling me about this new guy at work. Marcus something who told everyone at the company party that he was an orphan. Said both his parents died when he was young. Isn't that your boy's name? I managed to finish my conversation with Tom and make it out to my truck before the full impact hit me. Marcus had told his colleagues that I was dead. To him, I had become such an embarrassment that it was easier to pretend I didn't exist than to explain where he came from. When I got home, I called Marcus immediately. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number, and when he answered, I could hear voices and laughter in the background. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Did you tell people at work that your parents were dead? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. Dad, I can explain, he started, but I cut him off. How could you do that to me? To your mother's memory. I worked my whole life to give you opportunities, and you repay me by erasing us from your story. It's complicated, Dad. You don't understand the pressure I'm under here. People make assumptions about backgrounds and class, and it affects how they treat you. I'm just trying to fit in. The hurt in my chest was so intense, I could barely breathe. So I'm an embarrassment to you now. It's not about embarrassment, it's about survival in this environment. Stephanie says, I don't want to hear what Stephanie says, I interrupted. I want to hear what my son says. But Marcus just got defensive, accusing me of not understanding his world, of being stuck in the past, of not supporting his ambitions. The conversation ended with both of us angry, and I spent that night staring at the ceiling, wondering how the little boy, who used to be so proud to introduce me to his teachers, had grown into a man who was ashamed to admit I existed. The weeks that followed were a blur of hurt and confusion. I kept paying the mortgage on Marcus's house, kept hoping that whatever was happening between us was temporary, that my real son would come back to me eventually. But as Christmas approached, I realized I needed to have a serious conversation with him about our holiday plans. Surely Christmas would be different. Surely he wouldn't abandon our most important tradition. December 15th was a cold Tuesday morning, when I decided I couldn't wait any longer to nail down our Christmas plans. I'd been putting off the conversation, afraid of what Marcus might say, but I needed to know if I should buy groceries for Christmas dinner, if I should set up the guest room, if we were going to continue the traditions that had meant so much to both of us for so many years. I called Marcus's number around 10 in the morning, figuring I'd catch him during a break at work. The phone rang several times before he answered, and when he did, his voice sounded rushed and slightly annoyed. "Hey, Dad, I'm actually in the middle of something here. Can I call you back later? This will just take a minute, son. I need to know about Christmas plans so I can get everything ready. What time should I expect you on Christmas Eve?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had been dropped. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was different, colder than I'd ever heard it before. "Dad, I wasn't expecting you for Christmas." Those 8 words hit me like a physical blow. I actually had to sit down in my kitchen chair because my legs suddenly felt weak. "What do you mean you weren't expecting me? We always spend Christmas together. It's our tradition." "Look, Dad," Marcus said, and I could hear him moving around, probably stepping away from his colleagues. "Stephanie and I are hosting her family this year. Her parents are flying in from Connecticut. Her brother is coming with his wife and kids. It would be awkward to have you here too." I felt like I was drowning. "Awkward, I'm your father, Marcus. How is it awkward for a father to spend Christmas with his son? It's just, different worlds, Dad. Stephanie's family is very sophisticated, very cultured. They're used to a certain level of refinement. You'd feel out of place, and honestly, it might be uncomfortable for everyone." The words kept coming, each one cutting deeper than the last. I tried to interrupt, tried to suggest alternatives. Maybe I could come for Boxing Day instead, or New Year's Eve. Maybe we could have our own small celebration before or after the big event with Stephanie's family. But Marcus shot down every suggestion. "Dad, maybe it's time you found your own Christmas traditions. I'm not a child anymore. I don't need you hovering around, and frankly, this constant neediness is getting embarrassing." In the background, I could hear Stephanie's voice, though I couldn't make out all the words. I caught fragments. "Marcus, just tell him we have plans, and something about boundaries and moving forward." Then Marcus delivered the final blow. "I'm building a new life here, Dad. A better life. And that means making some changes about how things used to be. I hope you can understand that." I sat there holding the phone, listening to these words coming from the mouth of the little boy I'd raised, the young man I'd sacrificed everything for. And I felt something break inside my chest that I knew would never heal the same way again. "Are you saying you don't want me in your life anymore, Marcus?" "I'm saying I want a relationship on my terms, not on yours. I want to be able to see you when it's convenient for me, not because of some obligation to traditions that don't fit my life anymore." When Marcus finally hung up, I continued sitting at my kitchen table for what felt like hours. The house was completely silent, except for the ticking of the old clock Sarah and I had received as a wedding gift. I looked around at the modest home where I'd raised my son, at the photos on the walls, showing our life together, at the Christmas decorations I'd already started putting up in anticipation of his visit. Then, for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because suddenly, everything was crystal clear. Marcus wanted to build his own life, make his own decisions, create his own identity, separate from his embarrassing father. Well, I was going to give him exactly what he wanted. I walked out to my truck, got in, and drove home with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do. 2 days later, I woke up early and had the best cup of coffee I'd tasted in months. There's something liberating about making a decision that aligns perfectly with your self-respect. and I felt lighter than I had in years as I picked up the phone and dialed the number for First National Bank. "Good morning, this is Clarence Hartwell. I need to cancel the automatic payment on account number 4789216. The customer service representative was polite and efficient. Within 10 minutes, I'd removed myself from Marcus's mortgage obligations completely. 22 months of payments totaling over $50,000, and just like that, I was free from the financial burden of supporting someone who considered me an embarrassment. My next call was to Robert Chen, the lawyer who'd helped me with Sarah's estate. Robert had become a friend over the years, and when I explained what I needed to do, he understood immediately. "Clarence, are you sure about this? These are pretty significant changes you're talking about." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Robert. My son has made it clear that he wants to build his own life without his old man hovering around. I'm just going to help him achieve that goal." Within the week, Robert had drawn up new documents removing Marcus from my life insurance beneficiaries, my retirement accounts, and my will. Everything would now go to my sister Linda in California, who had always appreciated our family bond and had never once made me feel like I was beneath her station in life. The hardest call was to my insurance agent, Jim Morrison. I'd been paying for Marcus's car insurance since college, even after he'd gotten his good job, just because I wanted to help him get established. Canceling that policy felt like cutting another cord that connected us, but I knew it was necessary. "You sure about this, Clarence?" Jim asked. "Young folks can forget to take care of these things, and if something happens, he'll learn to handle it like the independent adult he wants to be," I replied. I'd been supporting Marcus financially in ways he'd probably forgotten about or taken for granted. The car insurance, a small monthly transfer to help with groceries and incidentals, even a credit card I'd added him to for emergencies that he'd been using regularly for restaurants and entertainment. One by one, I methodically removed myself from every aspect of his financial life. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not a long one, not an emotional one, just a simple statement of fact. "Marcus, since you've decided to build your own life with your own traditions, I thought you should handle your own responsibilities as well. Enclosed is this month's mortgage statement. The payment of $2,300 is due on the 30th. I've removed myself from all your accounts and insurance policies. Congratulations on your independence. Dad." I sealed the letter with a copy of the mortgage bill and drove it to the post office myself. As I dropped it in the mailbox, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't expected. That evening, I called my sister Linda in California. We'd always been close, but geography and busy lives had kept us from talking as much as we should have. When I told her what had happened with Marcus, she was quiet for a long moment. "Clarence, I'm so sorry. I know how much that boy meant to you." "He still means the world to me," I said. "That's why I'm doing this. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices." "Well, you know you're always welcome here for Christmas. The kids would love to see their Uncle Clarence again." For the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely excited about something. "You know what, Linda, I think I'll take you up on that offer." I bought a plane ticket that night, my first vacation in over 5 years. As I packed my suitcase a few days later, I realized I was actually looking forward to Christmas for the first time since this whole nightmare had started. My phone had been remarkably quiet since I'd mailed that letter. Part of me wondered when Marcus would get the mortgage notice what his reaction would be, whether he'd call. But mostly I found myself not caring as much as I thought I would. I'd done what needed to be done, and whatever happened next was up to him. The sense of freedom was intoxicating. For the first time in my adult life, every dollar I earned belonged to me. I could make decisions based on what I wanted, not what someone else needed. I could plan for my own future instead of constantly worrying about someone who clearly didn't want my help or my presence in his life. I was finally free. Linda's house in Sacramento was everything I'd forgotten about family warmth. Her husband, Dave, welcomed me like a brother, and their 2 teenage kids, Jenny and Michael, were excited to have their cool uncle visit for Christmas. It felt wonderful to be somewhere I was genuinely wanted and appreciated. Christmas morning was peaceful and joyful in a way I hadn't experienced in years. We opened presents together, laughed over coffee and homemade cinnamon rolls, and I helped Dave cook a turkey while Linda and the kids worked on side dishes. No one made me feel like I didn't belong. No one acted embarrassed by my work clothes or my simple way of talking. Around noon, my phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen, and I have to admit my heart jumped a little. But I was having such a good time with my real family that I let it go to voicemail. About an hour later it rang again, then again. By late afternoon, I'd received 7 missed calls and 3 voicemails. That evening, after Linda's family had settled in to watch a Christmas movie, I finally listened to the messages. The progression was fascinating to hear. The first message left around 9 in the morning. Dad, I got your letter and the mortgage bill. I think there's been some kind of mistake. The bank says the automatic payment was cancelled. Can you call me back so we can sort this out? The second message around noon. Dad, I really need you to call me back. I tried to call the bank, but they say only you can reinstate the payment since it was your account. This has to be some kind of error. By the third message left around 3 in the afternoon, Marcus's voice had changed completely. Dad, you can't just do this to me. What am I supposed to tell Stephanie? What will her family think? You can't just abandon your responsibilities like this. The irony of that last statement wasn't lost on me. I didn't call him back that day, or the next day, or the day after that. I was having too good a time with Linda's family. And honestly, I wanted Marcus to sit with his new reality for a while. Let him figure out what it actually cost to maintain the lifestyle he'd been living. Let him understand what I'd been sacrificing to support his better life. New Year's Day brought another round of phone calls, but these were different. Marcus's voice was less demanding, more confused. Dad, I don't understand why you're doing this. I know we had an argument, but this seems extreme. Can we please talk about this like adults? That night I called him back. Hello, Marcus. Dad. Thank God. Look, I don't know what's going on, but we need to fix this mortgage situation. The payment is already late, and if it goes much longer, it's going to affect my credit rating. Marcus, there's nothing to fix. I did exactly what you asked me to do. What are you talking about? I never asked you to stop paying my mortgage. You told me you wanted to build your own life, make your own traditions, handle your own responsibilities without your old man hovering around. I'm just helping you achieve those goals. There was a long pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was smaller, less confident. Dad, I didn't mean... I was just talking about Christmas plans. I didn't mean you should cut me off completely. What did you mean, then? That I should continue paying your bills while you pretend I don't exist? That I should keep supporting your lifestyle while you tell people I'm dead? That I should fund your new sophisticated life while being too embarrassing to include in it? It's not like that. It's exactly like that, son. And you know what I'm done with it. You want independence, you've got it. You want to be a self-made man, go ahead and make yourself. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, with Marcus alternating between anger pleading and attempts to negotiate some middle ground. But I'd made my decision, and I wasn't budging. When we finally hung up, I felt sad, but not regretful. 3 weeks later, Linda called me with news she'd gotten from a mutual friend. Marcus had been forced to take out a personal loan at a much higher interest rate to catch up on the mortgage. He'd sold his expensive watch and the leather furniture Stephanie had picked out. Word was that Stephanie wasn't handling the financial instability well, and there were rumors they'd broken up. I felt sorry for Marcus, but I didn't feel guilty. Sometimes the only way people learn is through natural consequences, and Marcus was finally experiencing the real cost of the choices he'd made. Spring arrived with its usual promise of renewal, and I found myself settling into a new rhythm of life. Without the financial burden of supporting Marcus, I was able to save money for the first time in years. I upgraded some tools in my workshop, took a weekend trip to visit some old friends, and even started thinking about retiring a few years earlier than I'd originally planned. The house felt different, too. Instead of being a shrine to Marcus's childhood that I was desperately trying to preserve, it became simply my home again. I rearranged the furniture, turned his old bedroom into a proper workshop space, and for the first time since Sarah died, I felt like I was living my own life instead of just waiting for someone else to include me in theirs. March brought an unexpected visitor. I was in the garage organizing my tools on a Saturday afternoon when I heard a car door slam in my driveway. Through the window, I saw Marcus walking toward the house, but this wasn't the confident, well-dressed man who'd been too embarrassed to hug me goodbye 6 months earlier. His clothes were rumpled, his hair needed cutting, and he looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. Most importantly, though, he looked young again, vulnerable in a way that reminded me of the little boy he'd been after his mother died. I met him at the front door, but didn't immediately invite him in. "Hello, son. Dad, can we talk, please?" I studied his face for a long moment, looking for signs of the arrogance and entitlement that had characterized our last real conversation. What I saw instead was genuine humility and what looked like regret. "Come on in." We sat in my living room, the same room where we'd opened Christmas presents and watched football games and talked about his dreams for the future. Marcus looked around like he was seeing it for the first time, taking in details he'd apparently forgotten or chosen to ignore. "Dad, I need to apologize to you. Not because I want something, not because I need your help, but because I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong." I didn't say anything, just waited for him to continue. "I got caught up in trying to be someone I'm not. Stephanie's world, her friends, her family. It all seemed so glamorous and important, and I thought if I could just fit in perfectly, I'd finally be successful. But I lost myself in the process, and worse than that, I lost sight of what really matters." Marcus's voice broke slightly as he continued. "I told people you were dead, Dad. My own father. The man who worked 2 jobs to put me through college, who sacrificed his retirement savings to buy me a house, who never missed a single baseball game or school play or graduation ceremony. I was so ashamed of where I came from that I erased you from my story, and I will regret that for the rest of my life." Cool. Tears were running down his face now, and I felt my own eyes starting to water. "When the mortgage payment didn't go through when I realized what you'd done, I was furious at first. I thought you were being petty and vindictive. But then I had to figure out how to come up with $2,300 on my own, and for the first time in my adult life, I understood what that money represented. Not just dollars and cents, but hours of your life, sacrifices you made, dreams you gave up." He wiped his eyes with his sleeve, a gesture so familiar from his childhood that it took me back 20 years. "Stephanie broke up with me when she realized I couldn't maintain the lifestyle she expected. She said I'd misrepresented my financial situation and that she couldn't be with someone who wasn't financially stable. At first I was devastated, but then I realized she never cared about me at all. She cared about what I could provide, what status I could give her. just like I'd started caring more about status than about the people who actually loved me. Marcus leaned forward in his chair, his voice becoming stronger and more certain. I don't want your money back, Dad. I've figured out how to handle the mortgage on my own, and I'm going to keep handling it. I've learned to budget, to live within my means, to appreciate what I have, instead of always wanting more. But what I do want, what I'm hoping for, is a chance to rebuild our relationship. Not the old relationship where you supported me, and I took it for granted, but a new one where we're both adults who choose to be in each other's lives because we love each other, not because we need each other. I sat quietly for a long moment, processing everything he'd said. The hurt of the past year was still there, but underneath it was the love I'd always felt for my son, the pride I'd always taken in watching him grow and learn, even when the lessons were painful. Marcus, I need you to understand something. I didn't cut you off to punish you or to teach you a lesson. I did it to save myself. I was losing my self-respect, enabling behavior that was hurting both of us, and I couldn't do it anymore. But if you're serious about rebuilding our relationship on equal terms, if you're serious about treating me with the respect I deserve as your father and as a human being, then yes, I'd like that very much. We talked for 3 hours that afternoon, really talked in a way we hadn't done since he was in college. Marcus told me about the pressure he'd felt in his new job, the insecurity that had made him vulnerable to someone like Stephanie, and the slow realization that he'd been living someone else's life instead of his own. I told him about the loneliness I'd felt, watching him drift away, the pain of being treated like an embarrassment, and the unexpected freedom I'd discovered in learning to live for myself again. When he got ready to leave, Marcus asked if he could come back next weekend, maybe help me with a project in the workshop, like we used to do when he was younger. I said yes, but with one condition. This time we were equals working together, not a father doing everything for his son. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in over a year. I wouldn't have it any other way, Dad. As I watched him drive away, I realized that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to grow up, even if it means stepping back and letting them fall down first. Sometimes love doesn't mean fixing everything for someone. Sometimes it means letting them fix things for themselves. The relationship Marcus and I have now is different from the one we had before, but it's better. It's built on mutual respect instead of obligation, on choice instead of expectation. We spend time together because we want to, not because either of us feels guilty or responsible for the other. And every month when Marcus makes that mortgage payment out of his own account, I know he remembers not just the financial cost, but the love that originally made it possible. That's a lesson worth learning, even if it took losing everything for him to understand it. Love doesn't mean enabling. Sometimes it means stepping back and letting them find their own way home. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they come back stronger, humbler, and more grateful than they ever would have been if you just kept carrying them along. Has anyone else ever had to make a tough choice between helping someone and helping them help themselves? Let me know in the comments below what you think about Marcus and my story. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about the complicated relationships that shape our lives. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their own choices. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that the strongest families are built on respect, not just obligation. I hope you and your loved ones find that balance, and I wish you all the strength to make the hard decisions when love demands it.